And yeah, it was because I didn't have time to go to the blog of Symfony.com. I'm watching the repository Symfony, but all the notifications is like getting more and more and more, and once it's too much, it's like, okay, mark all as read, and that's it. So it's not that cool, and I was wondering, maybe some people have the same problem as me. So that's why I tried to, just try something like reading all the stuff about Symfony during 1 year and make a big presentation. So that's why I'm here today. I'm Sarah. I didn't make any slides about me because it's not that useful, but yeah, I work in PHP and Symfony for 5 years now, 6 years. Now I'm a freelancer. Before that, I worked for Labs. And yeah, I love to share. That's why I'm here. So, I told you I love cats. The first thing I want you to say to yourself is like, great, this conference is going to help me to not go to the blog on symphony.com, because there is a lot of articles and there will be some short description all over this presentation. And of course, it will help you to get all your notification on GitHub mark as read. You have to know that there is the first part of this conference actually is it was in Berlin, as I told you before, and in this conference I talked about version 3.1 and 3.2, and I talked a little bit about all the community stuff, because it's really interesting and important. But now you may know that a new version of Symfony went out in May. Yeah, 3.3. And there is a lot of features in there. And yeah, basically, I won't talk about those stuff. So go ahead, go to my speaker deck. I have Twitter. If you have any questions, just ask me. I will be happy to answer. So yeah, what happened since 3.1 and 3.2? A lot of code, of course. Yeah, just some figures. So as I told you, four new minor versions since 2015, actually, in December. We had almost 70 versions released. That's a lot. Because, of course, you know that there is not only the 3.x versions always maintained by the core team and the community. There is also 2.x, depending on which period you are. But yeah, there is a lot of version to take care of. And yeah, about pull requests, about almost 2,000 merged. That's a lot. And there was almost 3,500, sorry. So as you can see, there was a lot of pull requests opened, but there was also a lot of merged. So that's encouraging to actually contribute to the project. Who already contribute to the project in any way? Creating issues, documentations? Nobody? Oh, hello. You should try, because maybe you will be able to help other people, or maybe seek for help also. When I was beginning with Symfony, I was a project manager in Labs, and I didn't develop at all. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in Labs and I don't know about Symfony? What the hell? So I began to think, okay, how to become legitimate around Symfony and so on. So I wanted to get a certification. I got my certification, but after that, it was like, okay, to get my certification, I have to know how it works in Symfony. And how can I know how it works? I have to read the whole code, actually. And just reading the code in Symfony is not that interesting, actually. So most of the time, I was like, okay, I'm going to seek for issues try to solve them, and how to solve them, basically by reading the code already exists, ask for questions, and so on. So I encourage you to do the same. Just trying. We'll see, it's really interesting. Hard sometimes, but really interesting. So yeah, for this conference, I chose to talk only about 3.3 because it's the version went out like a week ago. So, told you I love cats, really. Code everywhere. There was, as I told you before, a lot of code written and removed also. But yeah, keep calm and be a pundicorn. Don't worry. So today, 2 parts. The first one is it will be about deprecations and features. Okay, quite easy. And the second part, I had some troubles to name it, so I told you 2 to 3 things to know. You will see. So I hope you are excited. You are. Okay, let's begin with the deprecations. I chose 7 of them, and this is Lannister, my cat. And yeah, he has a Twitter account. So, first of all, you know about the environment variable called Symphony __, and so on. It won't be interpreted anymore in version 4. And the version 4 is going to go out on November. So be prepared about that. So now what you have to use is %env, the name of your environment variable, and that's it. And if you want to give a default value, here is an animation. Whoo, you just have to do this. So you are in your app config parameters.yaml file, and basically what you say is, OK, I'm declaring this as my environment variable. And if it's not declared somewhere in my machine, the default value is going to be this. OK? So think about this, because I know that environment variables is clearly important in a lot of systems. So yeah, no more Symphony __. Next one. Yeah, you know about the cache clear command, right? Most of the time people say, OK, it doesn't work. I prefer to do the rm minus rf, and then var cache, and so on. There is something quite interesting in this deprecation. It's that actually the cache warmup launched after the cache clear is not that accurate as the actual cache warmup command. So now, basically, before you did cache clear, now you have to make sure that there is no warm-up. You have to do your warm-up yourself, because the warm-up that was launched after the cache clear was not OK. That's it. Another one, deprecation. Maybe you know that there are events in your console when you do commands with Symfony. And there is, but it will disappear. It's console.exception. So basically, you can listen to this event to do stuff. But there is a problem with this event. It's because this event is triggered in, it's triggered before anything. And then you have a try catch, and you can't override the way the exception is managed. So now there is a new event called console.error, and it comes after the try catch. So basically, you can just listen for this event and modify the exception after that. I told you I'm a little bit tired, so if at the end of the conference I begin to speak French, it's OK. So next, X-status code. You heard about this header? Yes? No? People, are you here? Yeah? So there is actually a header. When you have a header beginning with X, most of the time it's something like very specific. And in Symfony, this special header was interpreted. And yeah, in this code, I'm just saying, so I'm in a listener, obviously, and I get the exception from the event, okay? And then I want to create a new response and put as status code 404, okay? And yeah, before it was like this. I had to create my response, put the content of my response, and then the status code. And if I want to change it, I need to add the header X status code. Quite difficult, I think. So people were like, OK, it's not that useful. Let's remove that. And now you just have to create your response with the accurate status code. And don't forget to call the new method on the event allow custom response code. And that's it. OK? So if you never heard about that, not useful, sorry. The Classloader component, we don't care about this one because it's kind of under the hood for Symfony. But you have to know that Composer took over. So basically, now we don't need anymore the class loader because it was created at the beginning of Symfony 2.x because Composer wasn't here yet. And when it appeared, OK, let's bring Composer, but there was some legacy with the class loader component. So now, if you are using PHP 7, and of course the 3.3 version of Symfony, you can test the fact that this component is not useful anymore. So in your front controller, app.php or app_dev.php or whatever, you just remove this statement, kernel load class cache, okay? And that's it. You will see that there won't be any difference in terms of performance because, yeah, it's only useful if you are using PHP 7, not before. All right. How about auto-wiring types? You heard about this? No? Who didn't? OK, so I need to explain you what it's all about. Basically, when you are creating, don't read this slide, listen to me. Basically, when you are creating a service, it's a class, and then in your maybe file, your YAML or XML, you declare the service, and that's it, it works, right? But you have to declare all your dependencies also with the arguments. With the auto-wiring thing, basically, we say, we have a service here, Twitter client, and we have a dependency called transformer interface, okay? And of course, I have another service called ROT13 transformer implementing this interface. And yeah, that's basically the one that will basically be injected to my first service. With the auto-wiring thing, we say, instead of doing the arguments, blah, 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 we just say, OK, my service is going to be Twitter client. I put auto-wire true, and that way, the dependency injection component will look for a service implementing this interface to inject it for you without doing anything. Quite nice. But, of course, a cat again, sorry. But let's say you have 3 services. Remember, before I talked about the Twitter client with the transformer interface. There was the ROT13 transformer implementing this interface. But there is also another service called another transformer implementing also the transformer interface. That way, how the dependency injection component will know which service to inject, right? To do that, we have this thing. So remember, this doesn't change. We have the Twitter client, just the class auto-wire true to say, OK, look for the dependency for me. But the dependency injection component doesn't know which service to choose from. So you have to add this configuration here, telling, OK, another transformer is the class blah, blah, and say auto-wiring types is the interface. That way, when the dependency injection component will look for a service implementing the transformer interface to inject it, I have like a flag here. Say, OK, it's this one. OK? This is basically how it works now. Remember, we are in the part deprecations. So, of course, it's deprecated. So, what you have to change now is this. So, basically, what you had before is auto-wiring types. Remember, it acts like a flag, saying, OK, it's going to be this service that is injected in this one. But now you have to use the alias. The alias is already there since the beginning of dependency injection component. So basically what we say, instead of using the auto-wiring types, blah, blah, we say only, OK, this service is going to be an alias of this one. That way, this dependency injection component will look for the right service. It will find this one, but there is also an alias for this one, which is the another transformer. So it will pick this one. OK? All right, you need to practice to get through it, but it's quite easy. Don't worry. Another deprecation, the case insensitivity of service identifier. Yeah, I didn't know that actually now. This is, yeah, for me it's a bug. So it's like a deprecation, but why not? But yeah, now my service with the uppercase and a lowercase is different. Before that, it was the same. OK? So be careful about the way you name your service. It's really important. And that's it for the deprecations. Of course, there is a lot of other deprecations, but I think it was the most important. So yeah, again, Cat Lannister, and we'll see together 20 of the features coming with 3.3. OK? I hope you are excited. My jokes are... Ooh. OK, first one, Flash messages. Of course, you all know this, right? All the time, I'm developing with Symfony for years now, but every time I need to read from, to get the Flash messages, I'm always getting back to the documentation because I don't remember how to do it. So I'm not the only one. And people say, OK, it's not that easy to get messages. Most of the time, we don't do this statement, but we should. We say app session is not null, because we need to know if there is a session. We need to know if it started also. And then we look for all the messages, and then we display it. OK. Now, we have this, app.flashes. It's a new thing. And yeah, you can access directly the whole messages of your flashback. Of course, if you want to access only one type of flash message, you have app flashes with the type you want. OK, like before, but less code. And the last one is quite interesting. If you want to get several types of flash messages, just put an array, and you can grab all the types you want. It's easier, I think. Another one. I don't know if you saw that, but it was a big discovering for me. Before, when you put your users in your in-memory storage, let's say, in your security system with Symfony, this kind of username became this. That's a problem, because here you have this, and here it's not the same. So, of course, it's a bug, but it's called a feature. And now this stays this. Wow, awesome. Killer feature. All right, next one. I'm sure you know very well this controller. Every time you are extending from this one to, yeah, I think the method that is used the most is get. When you do this get with the name of a service, it's basically to get a service. But there is some people out there saying, oh my God, it's not good because we are injecting the whole container. It's not a good practice. All right. So what the Symfony community wants to to encourage is to now use the abstract controller. So it's also coming from the framework bundle, but in there you have the same helper you have in the controller that you know already, without the method get. Okay? That way, you need to basically inject each dependency you are going to use in your controller. That way you are following the best practices. So yeah, if it's good for you, try it. But yeah, it's like if your code works, and no, don't don't try to change everything because of the best practices. It's like for the next projects, and yeah, okay. It's my advice. You heard about the component workflow? Who didn't? Yes, no, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to explain what's the workflow component. That way, I'm sure everybody knows about this. You know what is a state machine is? Basically, you say, okay, I'm from the state 1, and something happened, and I will go to the state 2 and state 3, and so on. Okay, that way we can create a way of validating step-by-step things. Most of the time, we think about a cart when you are doing your purchase on internet. It's like, okay, if I want to go from step 1 to step 2, I need to blah, blah, blah. It's not that easy, actually, to implement. And there are people that are very, they want to go for it and develop everything. And most of the time they do it wrong because they are alone facing their problems. And there was people that actually thought about this. So there was also a bunch of bundle to solve the problem. And the other problem is now which bundle I should use. So a guy from Semtio Labs called Fabien Potentier told, okay, maybe we can try to do a component to make sure that, okay, we have an implementation somewhere, and community will bring all the experience they have, and it will be easier, but he just left it. And another guy from Semtio Labs called Grégoire Pinault took it and finished it. So now it's not a state machine, it's a workflow. And basically, the big difference is that you don't have steps, you have positions and transitions. That's it. And basically, what you can say is that, okay, I have a position, wait for journalists. I have a transition called journalist approval, and it goes to approved by journalist. So one transition and the other position, okay? That's basically it with the configuration. And what I say here, because it's a new feature in 3.3, is that now you can add this special statement called guard. So you don't be mistaken with guard. It's not the security guard thing. It's more of, okay, if I want to go from position 1 to position 2, so basically trigger a transition, I have to make sure that the user authenticated is fully authenticated and has the role journalist, or when you call the voters, you will have the post-edit permission, okay? That's quite easier because this way you just have, you don't have to implement that much. Okay, so I encourage you to go see the workflow component. The documentation is really easy to read. If I can develop on this, believe me, you can. And if you have already that kind of stuff implemented in your project, I know that it's not easy to say, okay, maybe we did some mistakes, we should remove all of this and try this component. Maybe you can try it like validate it, and if it's good for you, just go for it, because the component is way more maintained than your code, actually. Okay? Next one. No transition between the features, as you can see. We have a new linter. So a linter is basically something that validates a file, let's say. In here, you have a command to validate xlif file. Xlif file are used most of the time for translations. And for people who does translation, you may know that it's really hard to maintain and to make sure that everything is OK. Because if you have any troubles with the translation file, you won't have any error. So it's like, OK, it doesn't work, but I don't know why. Great. Now you have a linter. So you can make sure that every time you update a translation file, everything is good. Of course, you do it yourself, but you can do it in your integration, continuous integration, Jenkins, GitLab CI, Travis, and so on. You just run this command to make sure that all translation files are OK. The next one is the dump function. So who uses var dump function? PHP, oh my God. Guys, we are in 2017, come on. OK, just to be clear about this one, it's basically an improved var dump. Basically, with this function, actually, you can use it for all PHP project on your machine. You just have to install the extension, and that's it. And basically, you have the big difference is basically when you are dumping a big object, let's say, I don't know, the Doctrine Entity Manager, for instance, it doesn't crash when you use dump. So why? Because you have some, let's say, dumpers according to the kind of object you have, and it will display only the information that is interesting for you. So I encourage you to use this function. And yeah, 3.3 brings you the search thing. So now you can search for something directly in the web debug toolbar, because when you do a dump, you have a small icon appearing in your web debug toolbar. You can click on it, and you have all the information directly on your website, and it's easier to read because it's colorful. It's also visible in your profiler, and of course, you can see directly in the page. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and use it. Next one, it's about a new data collector, the cache. You heard about the cache component? Basically, the cache component is just about getting some information, whatever you want, and put that somewhere. So the thing you could think about is, OK, I have some information, and maybe I want to put that in Redis, let's say. I want to put that in memcache. I want to put that in a file, whatever. You have a component doing that for you. And to debug actually what you put in cache, you have now a new data collector, accessible, of course, from the web debug toolbar and the profiler. And you have all the elements you put in the cache. And you have, yeah, the name of the element. I don't know if you see something, but yeah. If it was missed, so if it's missed, it's going to grab or generate the new value and put that in cache, and so on. Okay? That way, you can actually debug what you do with your cache component. All right. Oh, this one is big, actually. And I saw that I should have talked about that a little more, but OK, let me introduce you this one. Basically, for now, when you are installing Symfony, either you are using the full stack edition, right, with the whole thing, Symfony in vendors, and you have the whole structure and so on, or you're using directly the library Symfony with the bundles, the components, and the bridges, right? But every time you want to, yeah, actually use something, you need to activate it. When you add a new bundle, you always have to open the app kernel and then add the new bundle, and then go to the configuration and maybe enable something, and then add some more configuration according to the, what you need to do. With the version 4, Symfony wants to do something quite interesting. Install only what you need with Symphony Flex. You heard about Symphony Flex? It's at its early stages. So if you want to contribute actually to a project where there is not that much of people, go there, actually. There is like just, top 10% on this. So yeah, if you want to give it a try, go there. And basically, Symphony Flex is, it looks like Docker, actually. It's like you describe a config file, and you say, OK, I want this, I want this, I want this. And you just say it, and you will have all the components or bundles you want. And you don't have to activate it all by yourself. And yeah, just something I saw when reading the code, because I still read the code in Symfony. There is a new class in the Symfony bundle called full stack, and basically it's just check if your installation of Symfony is full or not. When we say full, it's the whole library with the components, the bundles, and the bridges. But if you are installing Symfony component by component, because most of the time when we begin with Symfony, it's with maybe the console component, and then we bring the other ones, this class helps you to know what kind of installation you have. Next, you heard about the PSR 16? Where are the 15 and 14 and... Oh, don't worry. OK, basically PSR 16 is about cache. And I told you there is a component called cache in Symfony. I'm going to show you some code about this, because before, I told you, you can grab some information and put that somewhere in a file, in Redis, Memcache, whatever, thanks to the cache component. So what you had to do is get the cache. At the beginning, I chose an adapter called file system. So I'm basically saying, OK, I'm going to cache everything in a file. Okay, and then with this cache, I can get an item called stats blah blah. It could be anything you want. And once I get the item, I can set the value, so key value. And then I just have to call save with the element I have. Okay, but the point is, we want to implement the PSR 16 standard. So basically, it's going to be way more easier. Now you just have to put set key value. That's it. OK? What's next? We have also so I showed you how to save an element in cache. Now, if you want to grab it, you have to put, before it was get item with the name of the key of the element you want to get. And if it's not hit, so basically if it's not in cache, I need to grab it and put that in the cache, okay? And then, otherwise, I get it from the cache, okay? Now, it's quite different. I'm just saying, okay, if the cache has the element named blah blah, actually if not, I'm going to get it and save it and blah blah blah. Otherwise, I just have to get the element and that's it, okay? And the last one, of course, it's going to be about delete. So before it was delete item, surprise, it's delete. That's it. Standards, you know, PSR discussions. We have also other methods called get multiple, because before I showed you the get with the name of the element. Of course, you can use get multiple, and in there you have an array. In the array, you put the several keys you want to grab. Set multiple, same thing. Basically, delete multiple. I think you understood the thing. Next on, web server bundle. Actually, you know about the server run, server start, server stop. right? It's using the web server coming from PHP, okay? And it has some management on top of this to help you to use it more easily. And yeah, what happened in 3.3, they just took some code and moved it in a web server bundle. That's it. Okay? And now, I don't know if you had the trouble before, the problem. When you run server start, it didn't get you the available port for you. It said, OK, sorry, this port is already used. Sorry. Now, it grabs you the port and say, OK, I launched the web server on this port. So it's quite nice. OK. Next, we have automatic log of console errors. Before that, you had to actually do it yourself with a try catch and log and blah, blah, blah. So now it's already logged for you. And yeah, if you already use Monolog, because it could be useful if you are using, I don't know, Logstash, Kibana, and so on to monitor all your log stuff, you just have to modify the configuration of Monolog, like before, and that's it. But you already have all the information for you, so you're not less code, so could be better. All right, the next are all about dependency injection, because this version 3.3 is mainly about dependency injection, actually. A lot of things changed. The first one is FQCN, so full qualified class name, as a service ID. So before, you put a name, let's say app.manager.user, and now you can put directly the whole full qualified name of your class. And as you can see, I don't have to put the class elements of my YAML here, so it's shorter. You have to know that it changed. And yeah, now if you want to get a service with the full qualified name of your service, you have to use the full qualified name of your service, okay? So this is how you do it. Oh, you may know that since, let's say, 1.5 years, let's say 2 years, the whole community is about not saying all the time, don't create several bundles in your project, because the question we have all the time when we do trainings is, OK, when should I choose to create a new bundle? It's like, OK, I have a user bundle and then a product bundle, and is this good? Is this good? Is this good? No, it's not. Actually, if you want to create a separated bundle, it's because you want to share it at some point. You want to take it out of your project, okay? Otherwise, it's just useless, okay? That's why in the documentation of Symfony.com, most of the time you see app bundle, app bundle, app bundle, okay? And to go further with this kind of thinking, people say, okay, if we have only one bundle, why do we have bundle at all? So we can implement the method build in the class kernel. Remember, the app kernel class extends from this kernel class, okay? And yeah, if you implement the build method, in there you can register the configuration, you can register compiler passes, basically what you do in your extensions, in your bundle, and in your bundle class also. This is where you register your compiler passes. Okay? So basically, you remove the bundle class, so you don't have any bundle anymore. This is the life without bundle. Okay? Just have to implement this method, and that's it. And of course, when you do the kernel build, inside you receive the container builder, of course. Otherwise, you will have some troubles. The other one is quite interesting. You know the imports, of course, because at the beginning of config.yaml, or maybe at the beginning of the config_dev.yaml, you have, of course, the imports of the config.yaml. Okay? If you want to import a bunch of files at the same time, you can use the glob pattern. It looks like wildcards. And yeah, you can play with this, definitely. So it could be useful if you have a lot of configuration files. Could be really, really useful. The other one is quite interesting. It's called name arguments. You know that when you have a service, you have, okay, argument 1 and argument 2. And when you create your service, you put argument 1, argument 2, and this is a rule, actually. Now you can just name it, okay? And say, okay, this one is going to be API key, and here is the value. It's basically useful because of the auto-wiring thing. Because in here I'm saying, okay, my service here, newsletter manager, this one, is auto-wired. So we are asking to Symfony, the dependency injection component, to look for a service implementing the logger interface and then injected in there, okay? But what about the second one? So if we kept the way arguments were managed before, we had some trouble because, the first argument is actually logger interface. That's why we have the name arguments now. So it could be useful for auto-wiring because what I told you, but it could be useful also for newcomers because at the beginning when you are doing services and you inject arguments, what's the dependency again? Why do we have this one and this one? Now we have the name argument and it's easier to read, okay? Next one, a PSR again, 11. Woo. It's about container interface. And basically, we have two methods to implement, surprise, get, and has. And we have also two exceptions introduced, container exception interface and not found exception interface. It depends if you need it when you are creating services, but yeah, it's quite under the hood in Symfony. But you have to know that it implements PSR 11, especially if you are seeking for the certification of Symfony. All right. We have also, something really interesting about service declaration. Now you have the special word underscore defaults, and basically what I'm saying here is that all the services declared after that are going to be private, so public false, and all of them will use auto-wiring. Okay? That way, you are not obliged to do it for each services. This one actually, for people that use already auto-wiring, maybe you heard about the wildcard here. And basically, what we say, otherwise you can say auto-wire true, or you can put auto-wire with a method and a wildcard to say, okay, Symfony, look for the dependency that has this type for me. And then, please call the setter according to the name of the dependency and set it in my service, okay? But it was removed, so if you never used it, it's okay. But now you have to know that if you want to do this kind of thing, basically it's already done for you. So here, what I'm saying is the class foo, that is service foo, is going to be auto-wired if this class has, of course, arguments, so dependencies, and by default, it will call directly the setter for you. Okay, so you have to know this kind of thing because it's quite magical. Not magical, but it's like it's not managed by you. So, but yeah, you have to know that a setter is called for you when you are doing auto-wiring. Next, more light. This. We have the config panel. Before it was like this, and now we have more information, such as time zone. Maybe you heard about the fact that it's quite pain in the all the time zone thing and the dat time and the management and so on. So yeah, and of course there was also some troubles around it. So now to debug more easily, you have the information directly. Same thing for the architecture, because there was a lot of issues on GitHub on the Symfony repository. talking about the fact that Symfony doesn't work on architecture 32 bytes or 64 in French. Told you I will speak French. And the last thing is quite interesting also, because you have the information that the version you are using at the moment in your application is maintained or not. That's really important in your in the life for your project. You have to upgrade as much as you can. So yeah, just follow the roadmap. And here it's just a link to the symfony.com website, and it's just symfony.com/roadmap. So anytime you can go there and just type the version, and you will have some dates around, and yeah, it will tell you if it's maintained or not. And I have one more. It's the README. It changed a little bit. Did you ever read this one? You should. There is a lot of interesting information in there. Again, about contributing. Of course, where you can find documentation, and especially this one, because for people that use Symfony more than a year ago, you know that the documentation changed a lot. And yeah, it's not that easy, because yeah, before that I was looking for cookbooks and so on, and it's not the same now. So you have some indication of about this in there. So yeah. And yeah, of course, the security issues, just a small parenthesis on this. You have to know that if you find a security issue, you have to declare it, but not in the public repository, of course. Otherwise, you will there will be problems for all the Symfony users, so that's not cool. So there is a whole procedure that you have to follow, okay? For people that follow Symfony, you would say one more thing in the README? No, come on. Of course, we have 2 new components. Yay! The first one is lock component. The management of lock on files, for instance, is not that easy, right? So what this component brings you is an advanced management of lock on several systems. The first ones are files, Redis, and Memcache. And according to the community, I think there will be other systems maintained. And the second one is called .env component, and it's all about loading, parsing, and populating the environment variables coming from your .env files. When I say .env file, okay? And what's nice in there is that if you have some troubles about your environment variables, you will have awesome messages of errors to tell you what's wrong, which is really nice, I think. So you should use it. The last part of this presentation is, the parts I didn't manage to find a good title. So here you go. You heard about Symfony demo? No? Yeah? No? Yeah, a little bit? Okay, for the people that doesn't know what is it, it's basically a big application. It's on GitHub, of course. And in there is a lot of example about a lot of features. You can have from the declaration of a service to pagination to anything you want, actually. So you should go there, download it, and yeah, you can definitely find a lot of answers of your problems in there. But yeah, other thing you can do with this Symfony demo application is, reference for good practices. Let's say you have newcomers, or even you don't know all the good practices about Symfony. You can read the code of this application to grab some hints. The other thing is to reproduce bug, because if you, I don't know, at some point you have bugs with Symfony, you create an issue, but it's like it doesn't work, it's not cool. You know, when people comes to you and say, in your application it doesn't work, but what doesn't work? Basically, with this application, you fork it and you try to reproduce the bug. That way, you just give the fork, and they just have to grab the application and they see directly the bug. You can also do performance benchmark. Because when you do some benchmark, I see it a lot on blogs, posts everywhere. It's on application doing hello world, and that's it. It's not that cool, actually. It's not a benchmark. On this one, you can do a benchmark on a real application. So you have a complete application, so you can try, let's say, okay, you want to convince the people to basically get through PHP 7. You can do a benchmark with this one. And of course, you can show what's possible with Symfony. Obviously, when you are trying to sell something, like, okay, you want to grab the project and say, okay, we really want to develop it in Symfony. Yeah, you can show it directly with this one. There is an introduction of...
Sorry, actually, we are out of time.
Sorry.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Next track we will start.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's it.